Hi, so I wanted to talk about reincarnation. So I had a vision of my past lives. I also will do another video about my son telling me about his past life as someone who died in 9/11. Now that's quite a story, but this video will be about my visions of my past lives. This was one of my first visions, my third eye visions. So what I mean by third eye vision is when you close your eyes and you can still see something very vividly, and yet you are not asleep. And you feel that it's like here that you get this vision. I'm very good at these visions, and this is one of the first I had. I was going through a period of time in my life where I was trying to heal. I was particularly trying to heal from a sexual trauma. I feel this is very important to speak about, that you can recover from sexual trauma and that it's okay. I also wanted to speak out that this is an awful crime against women. Beautiful women are hunted and are preyed upon by sick individuals in this world um, who are very obsessed with their bodies, and that's not okay ever. And women should have more rights and should not have to speak in such details and defend themselves when they have been a victim of sex crimes. Okay, so I was trying to heal, and I recognized that I had brought this in my life because I was afraid of it, and I kept bringing this in my life. It had happened numerous times in my life, every couple of years. So I had prayed before bed, which I found was a very effective technique for me. And then I kind of go to sleep. I have very lucid dreams to where I'm almost there, and I feel I get a lot of answers resolved in this way for me. So I asked to know what it is in my past or in my past lives, if necessary, because I had gone into this life and I didn't have childhood sexual trauma. I'm very thankful, and I needed to know why this kept happening to me and how I can solve it. Within minutes of closing my eyes, I suddenly got very intense visions. I saw myself in other bodies 5 lifetimes back. And the vision, how did it begin? Okay. I'm going to just start from most recent lifetime and go back as far as I have. And I'm not sure if they all came in this order, but you get a vision and then you kind of have to ask for more information. What does this mean? And you have to not let your mind, your ego, fill in the blanks. You have to let the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, when it is a vision that you did not have any relationship to, you know that it's not you. And that's a very important point of psychic development, is learning what is you and what is that higher knowledge. So, and that's why there is always a variance of complete accuracy. However, I've learned to really give it over, and I'm pretty accurate. So, most recent lifetime back, I died, and I kind of had this feeling I had died in a car accident. But this had to be this century because I was a man, and I was a young man when I died on a motorcycle. And the impression and feeling I got of this very short lifetime in this century in America was that I was a hot-headed man. I was really fueled on the power of being a man in America, and I had my motorcycle, and I was not very nice to women. I do not know particularly if I abused women, but I do feel that I did not have respect for women. And that's why I came back very quickly in 1979 here. And in fact, I think it's important to note that my birthday is April 1st, 1979. April 1st is the Chinese New Year, which before the 1600s was the beginning of the year, the very first day of the year. My name April means opening, which, the opening to spring and or oracle, which, connection. I believe this is very important for my life path. Okay, so I came back as a beautiful woman because I needed to learn to respect beautiful women, and to have a great mind and all that adrenaline and power and essentially testosterone that I've had to filter in a female body. And I feel that until I learned to respect women, I was going to continue to be disrespected. And I was quite significantly. Anyway, then I saw a life prior to that, and I would say in the 1800s. And I was in this house. It was a two-story house, and I was in like this very drab gray dress that went all the way down to the ground. And I could tell, I was just a modest living, and I was in a long dress that was gray, not real pretty. And I had the impression that I was oppressed. I was confused. I didn't like it there at all. And since then, I've done another meditation on my additional past lives to get additional information on that. And what additional information I got on that was that I lived in Central America in the 1800s. I was a woman with strawberry blonde hair, kind of frizzy. And I had a husband, big burly man, like a bear kind of man. And we had a wheat farm in like Kansas or something. I'm not positive on where, but I definitely know it was in Central America. And we had a very isolated life, and I was very confused on my beliefs. But because I was a woman and I had no particular education, and my soul is extremely intelligent. Anyway, I owned a wheat farm, me and my husband, in the middle of nowhere, just wheat forever. Okay? Very peculiar note is I'm allergic to wheat, severely allergic to wheat. I go into anaphylactic shock when I eat it. In fact, I have a serious illness that I've spent most of my life dealing with and the last couple of years trying to heal from, which has led me into the deepest esoteric teachings to learn healing. Anyway, continuing on, life before that. So, third life before that. I saw myself as a brown skinned man. I'm going to say Indian, but Hindu Indian. And I saw myself meditating. So I was a yogi, and my skin was brown, and I was super skinny, and I was a man, and I was a yogi. But I do know that this was like I was practicing with this, and I did go very far, but it wasn't like now where you can just look up anything on the internet and get what other people think about it and get confirmation that this is an experience. I went as far as I could go for that time frame. Now, also in that additional meditation that I did later to go back and find additional information about that, I found specifically that it was 925 AD. I also saw myself in like a rock house. And I believe that this was like in Jerusalem, in middle Iran, that area, the Middle East, because I was in the house, and it was rock, and the window was like out of rock, like the Flintstones kinda. And I was a man, I believe this same man who was the guru, and I believe he went so far he learned many different things during that life. I made a lot of advancement in this one life, and I was on my hands and knees, and I was praying with rosary beads, which is interesting. I was a Hindu guru, yogi, and praying with rosary beads, and I was praying because it was just such an oppressive time. And I also in this lifetime see myself doing extremely heavy labor. Not I may have been a slave, but I was not particularly a free person, or it was my work. I was a very heavy laborer. I saw myself carrying large rocks with chains, hard labor in the desert, hot. My skin was very dark, thin, barely nourished man that only was nourished on spiritual food in that life, 925 AD. And the most magnificent of them all was the one before that, where I was in Egypt and I was a beautiful dark-skinned woman, not black and not uh, Hindu, not Indian, but Egyptian, dark, very skinny. And I was in this place and it was lit by fire and it was beautiful. It was like a palace. And I do not believe I was a princess or anything like that. I believe I was a guest or someone who stayed there. But I was with a man in this chamber, in this room, this beautifully golden illuminated room. And everything had a golden hue and it was goldenness and it was kind of palacey like and palatial. And I was beautiful and thin and tiny, which is interesting because I'm blonde and tall and German and Italian ancestry now. And so I was small and tiny and tan, and I had a gold band on my arm, that a cuff, and it was sexy. And this man there, and he was dark and sexy, and he was my lover, and he was somebody. I'm not saying he was the prince, but he was like somebody, and his body was amazing, like The Rock, but not quite that built. And I believe this was probably one of the highlights of this lifetime, me being in this palatial palace with my lover. And it's a memory that I hold dear because it's so, I felt it. I felt that this was my lover. That was my soulmate. It may not have been my soulmate because I don't know, but it was my absolute hottest passion of like all my lifetimes. So, and I do seek that for my new lifetime. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed hearing about my visions of my past lives and that and reincarnation story. And I'll be back with you in another video to tell you about my son's reincarnation story, where he told me about how he died in 9/11. All right, bye. Have a good day.